Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Source Material Comics Podcast. We are jumping in headlong into our second metal-based comic. And this go-round, oh boy, be ready, folks. We're going to be talking Slayer. Another band I didn't really jump on the wagon for back in the day. Me and you have had that conversation, Mark, where I wasn't the biggest Slayer fan. You made me a playlist.
I said, didn't I make you a playlist like you were my girlfriend?
You did, and I gave you. We did a Metal Hammer of Doom where I gave you my top 5 off of that playlist. So at that point, I got a little bit more acclimated to Slayer. I learned a little bit.
Slayer's one of my top 5 favorite bands of all time. I've seen them like dozens of times. I got nailed at a fucking Slayer pit. Just fucking. So like I was like jumping or something, and I got like football tackled. Ooh. And
that shit happens in there. They're tackling people.
Well, here's the thing. So, again, like you get hit in football, right? So like I was jumping up, like doing some sort of like weirdo hardcore dance move. And I jumped up and I got hit and went fucking horizontal and fell straight down like a stripper in a bench suspended from a ceiling in a strip club in New Orleans. I fell straight down.
Man.
And bounced up.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. I got Slayer pits were notoriously fucking brutal.
That is bad. That is bad. Well, speaking of brutality.
Yes, sir.
We're going to be talking Repentless.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have to ask, you're in the Barnes & Noble, I'm assuming?
We're still in the Barnes & Nobles with the wife or the girlfriend that only reads smutty books.
Tune into the previous episode. This is a continuation of said story. You're sitting there, okay? So you got Iron Maiden off the rack, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, shit, Slayer. I assume that was your reaction. You were like, we have got to talk about Slayer. So
let me tell you something about comic books and heavy metal, Jesse, that you might not know. Some heavy metal bands were meant for comic books. Like Kiss is over the top, silly, colorful. Like they look
ICP. ICP had a bunch of Insane Clown Posse had a bunch of comics there for a little bit. Go ahead.
Right. So like Kiss, Insane Clown Posse, Gore, who we're going to talk about, Iron Maiden, even like stuff like bands with like mascots. So like Iron Maiden with Eddie, Megadeth with Vic.
Would love to see a Vic comic. Yeah.
So there are bands that they are just made for the comic book format. Now, I understand like the Z2 comics, there's comic books for bands, and some of them it's just their story. Like I have one for Cypress Hill, and some of it, people are taking like interpretations of, they're just doing stuff with the music. So like kind of like drawing comics based on a particular song, that kind of a thing. What I'm saying to you is that there are bands that lend themselves to the comic book adventure format, and then there's Slayer. Okay, Slayer does not lend itself to the comic book format.
If you look at a lot of their songs lyrically, you could probably pull some stuff out of there that, the higher concept is probably similar to what we had with the Legacy of the Beast, where we have this higher concept, demons angels of death.
Yeah, I have an Anthrax comic from Z2. I think it's like Among the Living or something like that. And it's literally like, little like 2 or 3 page short stories for each song on the album. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like something like that for Slayer, I could see. Or, or if you wanted to do something like a Cypress Hill, though I don't know how interesting Slayer's story would be. I mean, I think if you can get into maybe some of Slayer's confrontations with like parent groups or something like that, but I'm not even sure how much of that really plagued the band. But my point being that Slayer, in and of itself, they look like dudes. First of all, they're just dudes.
They're guys.
There's no costume here.
Right. I mean, if anything, if you're going to throw them into like some kind of subsect of society, they look like bikers almost.
Yeah, and not only that, but they also look like a lot of other bands. Like if you lined up the guys from fucking like Testament, Slayer, Overkill, Exodus, like they all fucking look the same.
Yeah, right.
I have no idea who's in what band. So
could you imagine? Hey, pick out the guys from Slayer, and you got like 20 dudes from 5 different bands.
all wearing fucking black jeans and leather jackets and long hair. Like, which one of you is Scotty in? The only one that looks different.
I was gonna say he would be the one.
Yeah, I carry King as bald too, but
right.
All right. So my point is, so we can move this along, I would pick up the book and flip through it because I would like, what would you do? What would you do with Slayer in a comic book? And apparently the answer in this particular case with Repentless was gritty crime noir.
So let me go ahead and I'm going to break down the creative team for this thing.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give a synopsis. And then I'm going to surprise Mark Radlich. All right,
Ooh,
here we go.
I like surprises.
Yeah, get ready. All right, so yeah, Slayer's Repentless, published by Dark Horse Comics, written by John Schnepp. And then the artist, I'm just going to spell the first name because I know there's absolutely no way my Appalachian ass can pronounce this. It's Guiu Villanova is the last name. This was published.
Love the fact that you've gotten to a point where you've just fucking given up.
I can't. There's no fucking way. How am I supposed to do that? I was not.
There was a time that you'd try, though.
Oh, there was. There certainly was. I'll do the colors here. Mauricio. What do you think of that? Mauricio.
Very good
Wallace.
One, man.
Thanks. Lettered by Nate
the Great
Picos. Nate the Great Picos of Blambot. Slayer. Repentless. Wyatt and Adrian were two young brothers orphaned when their family was murdered. Their uncle takes them in, indoctrinating them into the cause, which I assume is an extension of the Aryan Brotherhood. However, one night, Wyatt begins to realize that the hate, prejudice, and violence he used to fill the void in his soul were poisoning him. Leaving everything behind, Wyatt finds a home in a small town called Repentless, abandoning his brother and his Aryan ways. He finds love in a beautiful African-American woman named Angel and is welcomed into her family. When Adrian becomes aware of this, he deems him a race traitor and begins a brutal, murderous mission to kill everything that Wyatt loves. After Angel is killed right before his eyes, Wyatt looks to take Angel back to Repentless and end this conflict with his brother once and for all. So that is your synopsis for these, what is it, 3 issues, I think? Three or 4 issues of Slayer's Repentless?
It's 3 issues. Like, this is really short.
Okay. All right. So one thing you may not have known, Mark Radlich, maybe you did. On the inside cover, this says that this is based on a video trilogy written by and directed by B.J. McDonnell and inspired by the music of Slayer. Watch the video trilogy at slayer.net in this order: Repentless, You Against You, and Pride and Prejudice. Which of those 3 are we going to do a Metal Hammer of Doom extra for right now? 1 week before the riot, or 2 months after the riot? Okay.
We're going to do the riot.
All right, let's do the riot. So I'm going to grab the link here. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, here we go.
That looks like a famous actor. Like, I feel like I know him.
Yeah, that dude looks very familiar. I think he looks like the kid from People Under the Stairs. If you remember that movie, the one without the tongue, that looks just like him. All right, so here we are. This is essentially the prison riot that's about to happen. You may remember this happening in the book, Mark Radlich.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Get ready. Oh, shit.
Stand in the neck. Oh, I love it.
Oh,
the blue team is protecting Slayer, who decided that right in the middle of a riot is when they were going to play. Like, maybe this isn't a particularly safe gig. Oh, look, it's Machete.
Danny Trejo's in this thing. And I have a note on that, too, when we talk about this comic. Look at these guys.
You can't have dumbbells in your cell. That's why. That'll be a no for me, dog.
I've never taken a dumbbell to the chest. I certainly would. Oh my God.
Do not recommend it.
There is some brutality happening here. Is that the guy with the have eye? That bald dude? It looks just like him. I could be wrong.
Tom Araya looks like Father Time now.
They're getting old, buddy. This is 2017.
Yeah, I was going to say, the video says it's 7 years ago.
Wow.
Every riot should have a soundtrack.
I mean...
just a live band following people around. You know, in old wars, they would have, like, the drummer and shit like that. Like, you can't attack the band.
That, yeah, makes sense.
Boom. Yeah, fucking fuck.
And you gotta remember, there's just like, Danny Trejo taking out an officer pretty efficiently.
You know, one like shot with a knife will do you. Like the multiple stabbings, like it seems too intimate to me.
You're really making sure the job's done.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, if you're just trying to get the hell out of the prison, one stab will do you.
Yeah, right.
And they keep it moving, buddy. You don't want to linger.
Get down.
Yeah.
Man.
I love it. Like they're soloing. we're not even like keeping up with the fucking riot. Like we're just doing our own thing here. Oh, time for a guitar solo. Down he goes.
I mean, they did not shy away from the blood and the violence in this thing at all.
Fucking like, dude, they have a song called "Rain in Blood" or "Raining Blood" rather, and on a tour. Oh, there's that damn dumbbell.
The dumbbell comes back into it.
They had a Raining Blood, and they did a whole tour where they would just drop gallons of fucking fake blood on people.
Oh, dude.
Because, raining blood. Get it? Do you get it?
I get it. Well, that guy got beheaded, which I'm sure that had to take a little while to do with a prison shank. Like, you're not sawing it through bone pretty easily with a shank. Oh, my gosh. Danny Trejo putting the thumbs in that dude's eye socket.
Little thumb in the eye never hurt nobody. All right, so are those shock shields? That's my question.
Is this a silent disco?
Oh my God.
Okay, time to turn yourself in. Well, that was fruitful.
It just goes right in the fucking cell. First of all, no, he would not. No, he wouldn't. He would be a pancake.
There's the cover of our comic, pretty much. Hoo-wee.
No fucking way after a riot covered in blood do you approach three guys on a blue team with fucking shields, shock or otherwise, and they just let you waltz into a cell.
They're like, okay, you can go back to your cell now.
You're taking a beating.
You might get a shower later, but yeah, that's his punishment. He doesn't get a shower for a day. He's covered in blood.
I gotta make a phone call. Fuck you do.
Oh man. But I will tell you, the other two, oh my goodness. They again, same thing. In the book, there's a point where Wyatt's wife gets her throat slit in front of him. And that happens in the, I think it's the 2 months after it might be the 1 week before the riot video. But anyway, so yeah, they do not shy away from the violence in these videos. And it's really, there's one where I think a guy's getting his head stomped. And I mean, it just basically becomes a zombie, an analog to a zombie film because half his head is gone as they continue to just kind of stomp it in. It's gross. But there you go, Mark Radlich. You hungry for breakfast?
All right, we talk about the stupid comic now.
Okay, here we go. What we just saw was awesome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was great. You need to base a comic off of that.
Okay. So one thing we didn't talk about with the Iron Maiden book was the use of Iron Maiden, the occasional Iron Maiden lyric, like run to the hills. Like that, I sent you a screenshot of that one. I was like a little on the nose.
Yeah.
But I couldn't send you any more because nothing jumped out at me. Nothing was that obvious. There was nothing. I didn't turn a page. It was just like, Eddie, do you fear of the dark?
Do you fear of the dark?
Do you have a constant fear that something's always near? Nothing like that. Nothing that obvious. This fucking book, however, someone didn't understand. This is the Red Rooster of fucking comic books. Just somebody who was like, they pitched them an idea and they were like, oh, okay, got it. Make a Slayer comic. So every line of dialogue has to be a Slayer lyric, forced or otherwise. It is the dumb.
Well, it isn't as bad as it gets.
People are being stabbed and they're just like, so many years ago, before I was social, I raised a stink. Not that kind. Not a blast that sends women into other dimensions.
It wasn't no silent disco.
No. I raised a stink, though, an objection, if you will, about Broadway musicals. And here is what I said. Broadway musicals are inherently dumb. And you can't suspend your disbelief. You're watching a performance. So like sometimes like you watch a movie or you watch a stage production and you can kind of be lost, especially like a stage production. You're right there, right? You're seeing the people. You can reach out and like touch them, like squeeze their penis or whatever.
Yes, they're so
they don't encourage it, but you can. But you can be lost in the drama of it all. You can be moved. You watch a musical where they're singing, or an opera where they're singing every line of dialogue. It's a performance. There's no drama to be lost in. You might be swept up in the performance, but your suspension of disbelief goes right out the fucking window.
Right.
And part of my problem with it is nobody come up and be like, did I leave the iron on? You know what I mean? Like, they're not having a conversation in song. No one's just like, Kelsey, did you take out the trash? Nothing like, exactly, go fuck yourself. Nothing like that, okay? That is my problem with this fucking book. Because it's like half the way you would read a Shakespearean tragedy and half a musical, and none of it's fucking believable. And I really couldn't like get myself involved in the narrative. Not to mention the fact that the narrative was ass stupid.
Yeah, it's kind of rough.
Yeah.
I've got examples here of, I took screenshots of the panels.
Okay.
Of where this fucking goes off the rails. But before I talk about that, I want to tell you the solution to what you're talking about here. All right. The only thing that they needed to have happen was if they were going to put Slayer lyrics into this book, they needed to have
try a little harder to make it fit. Do you remember the story I told you about how, like, as a gag, when I was working in a group home with at-risk boys, I just started talking to them in Guns N' Roses song titles? Like, I had full-on fucking conversations with these kids doing nothing but Guns N' Roses lyrics. Guns N' Roses song titles.
Oh my gosh. And so
I might have just to like transition, might have used a lyric or two, but I was mostly doing song titles.
Okay.
That's what this reminds me of.
Okay. All right.
Like, I'm going to fucking stab you in the face. And he never says, I'm going to stab you in the face. It's, let me try to find something that closely resembles that in the lyrics. And it's just like, okay, I want to convey anger and stabbing in the face. Auschwitz, the meaning of pain, the way that I want you to die. Like, wait, what?
Oh my gosh.
Ridiculous.
So, okay. Slayer pops in this at the end of issue 1. Okay. Holy crap, there's Slayer sitting in a bar. Here's my solution to the whole lyric thing. The only person that needs to be saying lyrics throughout this whole thing is Tom. If it was just Tom saying these over and over, it would have been the greatest gag in the whole world.
Well, it needed to be like, Slayer shouldn't have been in the book. Slayer as characters, Slayer should have been like a Greek chorus almost. Like they're like they're like the Watcher. You know what I mean? Like they just like, so like you can like have everyone talking normal, but have like Slayer kind of talking about what's happening in the book, but doing it in song. That might have worked better for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. My thing was like, man, if Tom would have just been doing like saying these lyrics every once in a while, it would have been like the greatest gag ever, because then you're like, okay, well, hey, we know that he's the guy that sings these songs. He's going to be the one that says these lyrics. That makes sense.
The other way you could have done it would be like The Wire, like make these into chapters. I know it's only 3 issues long. It's not a very particularly long story, but even break up each one of these issues, like a page or two is a chapter, and every chapter begins with a Slayer quote.
Right.
That would have been another way to do it.
Right.
Would have been less dumb.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So there is a point where I think Tom has the guy at gunpoint, and he says, the guy that he has at gunpoint says, "Come on, Trey, cut me some slack for the old days." And Tom goes, "Gaze into my eyes, you'll see there is no remorse," which is a lyric from a Slayer song. And then we got the dude that was like cutting the guy's face off that's going after Wyatt.
That was so funny, by the way. That I wanted to see like come to life, because that was hilarious.
When he walks out with the guy's face on, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he walks out with the guy's face on. Yeah, that's pretty messed up. But yeah, that guy jumps after Wyatt and he yells, "You're staring at the atrocity vendor. I can show you how it feels." Like, that is what he says mid-leap at this guy. There's at no point as this guy labeled as, hey, okay, this is the atrocity vendor.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
Do you read comic books?
I do.
Okay. So you know how like you're reading an X-Men comic and like Wolverine and Sabretooth are jumping at each other? You know how like comic books are dumb and they're both like giving a soliloquy mid-jump? That's like what that reminded me of. When Logan Paul and Ricochet, they
collided
midair.
Right there.
You know what they didn't do? A promo in the middle of it.
I am the atrocity vendor.
Yeah. Followed by "I regret nothing."
Oh, man. Oh gosh. The biggest offense to me in this, I mean, in regards to the whole lyric thing, was the point in which I think the battle's about to go down between Wyatt and his brother Adrian. Adrian is flying this plane in with a bunch of soldiers on it, and he's got him on the phone. He says, "I will be waiting for you. On fields of blood you will pay."
Nobody talks that way.
He's in the car. He looks up and he sees the plane's about to land. It's Adrian and his soldiers, and he goes, "Warriors above with the power to kill descend." Like, that's fucking ultimate warrior shit right there.
Yeah, the two pilots.
Come on. The motherfucker ain't gonna say that.
No.
And then Adrian, who has his soldiers ready to go, looks back. He says, "I want to see this place raining blood." He said the thing, Mark Radlich. You said that to me.
He said the thing. That's the only line I could possibly see working. Like, I want to see this place raining blood. Okay, you're a little overdramatic for a goon, but
right.
That's fine. Like, it's like, why a spoon? You know, because it'll hurt more, you twit.
So we got to get past that. We got to get past the fact that this was like 11 pounds of monkey crap put into a 5-pound bag of Slayer lyrics into a comic.
So this is also not a deep story. The plot of this thing is essentially he gets fucking ousted by the family and they try to kill him. And then he goes like on a fucking killing spree to try to get at the brother who ousted him. And then he does. Did I miss something?
That's essentially what this is. I mean, his brother kills his wife.
Okay. It's like a John Wick kind of a thing.
So yeah, very, very much. And then his brother is upset because he left the Aryan Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
So he's now a race traitor. We've got to put him in the ground. The way that they first make him pay is by killing him.
I forgot about them killing the black wife.
Were you expecting like the whole Aryan angle here? Because I wasn't expecting
Slayer?
A bunch of SWAT. Okay, all right.
Yes. The Slayer, they have two things: Nazis and Satan. That's it.
Okay,
that's all they talk about.
Is it seriously?
Yes. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I was reading something about them talking about the writing of Angel of Death, and it was like somebody in the band, I think it might have been Kerry King, read something about Joseph Goebbels, and he wanted to write a song about it, and then everyone's just like, "You're Nazis." Like, no, we're talking about it. We are putting this into the world for conversation. Not that kind, you perverts. We are putting this out there for you to think about. That doesn't mean we support it. Like, how is it that Slayer asking the important questions about the cultural conversation? Why can't we bring something up without being associated with it?
Right. Since I wasn't very familiar with the band. When I opened this comic up, I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I was not expecting all this. I wasn't expecting.
Not
this
surprised
was
at all.
We're not,
okay. I'd have been surprised if it was like Repentless. Oh, look, rainbows and puppies. No.
You kind of know what you're getting by the front cover of this thing. The front cover of the first issue is, our buddy Wyatt here, just covered in blood, wearing a patch, and you're like, okay, all right. So this comic, just like the video, extremely brutal, extremely gory. So it fits, I think, in my opinion, of at least the impression I get of Slayer. Their music is definitely reflected in this book, in my opinion. In the beginning of this book, there's a point where Angel gets killed. Wyatt and Manny, played by Danny Trejo's character, escape the prison and are heading back to Repentless. And so at one point, Wyatt looks at Manny and tells him to get the car. He says, "We need to bring her home, Manny. We need to do that. We need to do that now." So Manny gets in the car, and hence these two guys are kind of linked together for the rest of the book. Manny's going to help out Wyatt fight his brother and his goons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, at one point, I think Manny was brought in. One of the videos depicts where Wyatt was given the chance to kill Manny in a cell. And the knife is kind of laid down there. He pulls the hood off, and that's where he makes the choice not to kill Manny. And when he does, then they bring Angel out and kill her right before him. Point I'm getting at is that at one point later on down the road, Wyatt's in the car with Manny, and he says, "Thanks for sticking with me, Danny." Now...
On the nose, the comic.
What's funny is that he's portrayed by Danny Trejo in the video. So I'm wondering if like they meant to do that, or is this a situation where they're like, "Oh yeah, that's Danny Trejo. I'm drawing Danny Trejo in here. Yeah, his name's Danny," and just completely forgot. Anyway, there you go. When shit hits the fan in the final issue, I mean, it gets bloody and it gets violent and it gets off the chain. The members of Slayer are involved in this battle as well. So they're kind of, like I talked about that one panel with Tom facing off with the one guy. They're in there. They got guns. They're shooting. It's pretty crazy. The townspeople of Repentless come in and they help save the day. 5 pages in the final issue. There's 5 splash pages. And all of Slayer's Repentless. The whole song, Mark Radulich, is what the fucking narration is. That whole Repentless song is that. I mean, you can go and look. That is every lyric
from the album Repentless from 2015, the 12th and final studio album by American thrash metal band Slayer.
Yes, sir. What I think you would actually need to do is you need to put the song on and then just kind of slowly pace yourself through those pages as the lyrics are going. That fits. You just said. I mean, that's definitely a soundtrack, and that's kind of what got me thinking. Like, the execution of this is kind of done wrong. You can't really pull off throwing these lyrics into a comic, but you can show the lyrics of a song as the action unfolds on the page, like they do in those last 5 pages, which would be great. But it's not going to compare to what it would look like on the screen hearing the music. We just watched a video. Everything that was happening on there fits so well with the song. I mean, it really did. But it does not. You can't make a song fit with a comic sometimes. And they tried here, and it did not translate. It did not translate. That's it, Mark Radulich, on 3 issues of Repentless. Give me your final thoughts.
Again, kind of like what we said about Legacy of the Beast. I mean, if you're just looking, if you're in the store, your wife's buying smutty books, and you're just looking for something to kill some time with, and you happen to be a Slayer fan and you like gratuitous violence, this comic is fine. If you're looking for anything more than that, like if you're like a huge Slayer fan and you're like, oh, I like all the Slayer merch, I need all kinds of Slayer doodad, then this is a fine addition to the Slayer doodad collection that you have. If you're, if you're looking for something with a little bit of heft to it, a little bit of depth, this is not gonna tickle your sack.
You know what? If you would have took all of the fucking dialogue out of this book, if you could put your own words into their mouths as to what's going on and figure it out that way, great. But I will say the lyrics shoehorned into the dialogue took me out to where I told you I'm not
Dude,
a fan.
I was laughing. So I was reading this on the cruise from back in March. I was in the Safari Club with my wife, who was reading the BDSM Sleeping Beauty book written by Anne Rice. Did I mention women only read smut? I don't know if I said it before. I was next to her reading this comic, and she's like, "What are you laughing at this whole time?" And I'm just cracking up. Like, it got silly after a while. Is the point of that long tirade? Like, because I kept sending you fucking like, I didn't send you anything for like Legacy of the Beast except the one time. And with Gore, I sent you like 1 or 2 things that were funny. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But this one, I was sending you like every other page because it was that dumb.
Well,
and I was laughing the entire time.
I know. And I mentioned earlier, I'm not the biggest Slayer fan, so I don't know all the songs. I know the top hits. I know the top 10. That's probably where I'm at. But what's funny is that as I'm reading this, I'm like, there's no way that fucking guy would say that in this situation. Is that a Slayer lyric? I Google it, and sure enough, I get confirmation it is. That's what I was doing while I was reading this thing. I was actually able to pick out points in which there were Slayer lyrics that I had no idea were Slayer lyrics in the first place. That's how stilted this dialogue could be. Kudos to them to trying to develop a story around these three videos. It's tough for me to recommend something like this when you're going to be taken out by unfortunately the dialogue of the thing. So anyway, but as far as gore and brutality go, thumbs up right here. Mr. Starcher will give you a thumbs up on that because it does not shy away from that at all.
Yes,
all right, Mark Radulich, we're done. We are done. Manny Danny's done talked about. Let's go ahead and get the hell out of here. So what is on the agenda for? Well,
assuming all is right in the world and lined up where it's supposed to be today, in the year of our Lord is May 29th, 2023, when you're hearing this, unless you're hearing it after. Which means tomorrow, May 30th, we'll be doing a Damn You Hollywood for The Little Mermaid. Yes.
No, not controversial at all.
No. There's no race swapping that happens here that needs to be discussed.
Does she get like turned into a fish by a penis?
You'll have to hear the review, sir. I don't want to give it away, but yes.
Yes, it happened. Unbelievable.
There's so much penis in this Disney movie. Speaking of penis, Jason Teasley will be on the Long Road to Ruin tomorrow. We'll be looking at the Lake Placid. We did Anaconda. Now we're doing Lake Placid.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and then we're eventually going to do Lake Placid versus Anaconda.
Beautiful. All right. Yeah, folks, go check out the Source Material Comics podcast feed. You can find all sorts of great stuff there in the archive. Mark Radulich and I got together and talked Iron Maiden Legacy of the Beast, first in this trilogy of comics based on metal properties. So check that out in a 90-centric podcast that is called Unspoken Issues. Should be able to find our discussion of JLA Rock of Ages. It's a really good book. You need to check that out. Where I think it was me, Derry, and Dean got together to talk about that one. So anyway, for Mark Radulich, I'm Jesse Starcher. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon. Get ready. This ain't your silent disco. All right. We are going to watchtogether.com. You remember these days? Do you remember these days?
I do. When we used to have fun on this network before I was social.
All right. I'm hitting play, Mark Radulich. Here.
Yeah, let's do it up.
We go. Oh, wait a second. What the hell?
Ugh.
Well, fuck it. I ain't fucking around with this thing.
3, 2, 1, go, or 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, and go. My son said some smart alecky thing, and my daughter was, speaking of people who don't talk right, she's fucking like doing Shakespearean talk these days. She's like, how dare thee?
I say thee nay.
Don't have children, people.
Yes, learn from our lessons.
Do you know how they wake Sleeping Beauty up in the Anne Rice, written under a pseudonym, BDSM Sleeping Beauty trilogy?
Tell me there's a penis involved.
There's absolutely a penis involved. Anybody in your family read The Smut?
No. Well, I'll ask Caleb here later.
We're going to talk about the fact that I'm 47 years old and my life and body are falling apart. That's what we're talking about.
No, prolapse.
But no, not another prolapsed anus.
Listen to our previous episode that Mark and Radulich. Did you know you're two people now? All right, I sure hope you can refrain from making flaccid jokes. Lake Flaccid, folks. See what I did there?
I don't want to record with you anymore.